Hi everyone, this is Math 30-1, Trigonometry Lesson 7. We skipped this lesson because this lesson is about transformation, and then we learn about this is the form for transformation, and for this lesson, they only do A and B. So while I skipped to lesson 8 because it's due A, B, C, D, so we complete the picture. But then if you prefer, we can like take it slowly. Let's do A and B first. Look at how it looks like, how to find the amplitude, the period, and all that. Okay, so if you think about transformation, if you have a letter in front, all right, that is A. So use the knowledge gained from transformation, describe how the following will affect sin x. Okay, you multiply a function by a number, that's your A, so it's vertical expansion by 2, all right? You have a function and you replace x by 2x, so that's your B. So B is 2, okay, not half. B is 2. But then it's a horizontal. You use this word, right? Stretch, which is generic. It could be expansion or compression. Well, by how much? By 1/2. You always flip the effect of B, which give you, since this number is less than 1, which is a compression. So like if we say horizontal compressed by half, it's like kind of when you compress a number less than 1, does it become bigger? Like it's a bit confusing. So stretch is generic. So it could be expansion, compression. Whenever the stretch is bigger than 1 is expansion. Whenever it's less than 1, like between 0 and 1 is a compression. But then for expansion, there's no confusion. If you expand by 2, that's expand by 2. Okay, only when you say compressed by a number is a bit confusing. It's like double negative. Does it get bigger or smaller? So just say let's stretch by half. My meaning is it is a compression. Now, when you have a negative, do you remember what happened? It's vertical reflection, right? Vertical reflection. And also, it will be expanded by 3. Well, same for negative. It will be a horizontal reflection, all right? And then it will be stretched by 1/3, which we know then, therefore, is a compression. How does it change the amplitude and period? Oh, what does that mean? Amplitude, like when you make a cosine graph, it's like that, right? You can just quickly uh, sketch one. So the amplitude is here, right? It's how low it goes. And we'll find out if amplitude is start at 1, the amplitude start at 1. And A, you multiply it with A, so 1 times A, so therefore the amplitude will become A. So generally, amplitude is 1 and 2 pi for any function. You multiply by 2, therefore it's 2. You stretch it by 2, right? This one didn't change. This one, you stretch it by 3. It's flipped upside down, right? The graph go like this 3 times, right? However, you only say 3. Amplitude is always a positive number. This one didn't change. This one will be a 5. This one will be a 1/3. So generally, the amplitude is just A, and then you absolute it. Okay, so you need to remember this formula. The period is how often a graph repeats. If you now compress it, so if there's no B, they stay the same. So for all the one that doesn't have B, I would just write 2 pi there. If you have a 2, it's being compressed. So instead of here, now it's here, compressed by half, right? And then it's another cycle will go. Like if this is 1 cycle, now you can fit 2 cycle there. So this 2 tell you how many cycle you can fit in 2 pi. You can fit 2 cycle there. What is the period of each cycle? Will be 2 pi divided by 2. So it will be pi. 2 pi divided by 3. Again, you ignore the negative sign. 2 pi divided by 3. Here, 2 pi divided by 4. which it reduces to pi over 2. Okay, here 2 pi divided by half, which becomes 4 pi. So generally 2 pi divided by b, you absolute it. Okay, so we summarize it in the next table here. Like this, describe what happened in words for you. They summarize it here. For radian, 360 is just 2 pi. Now they have one more thing, and max and min. So if you look at a graph, all right, so max is the max value, right? How high does it reach? And how low does it reach? If it reached 2 here, it will reach -2 here. The amplitude is 2 minus -2, max minus mean, which give you the total distance. You cut it in half, divide by 2. So which give you 2. And if you have a trig that like periodically move up there and down there, let's say from 7 to 3, well, same idea. It span the distance of 4, you cut it in half, that will be your amplitude. So it's always max minus min to find out how much is spanned, and then you divide by 2. So this is the formula for amplitude as well. Okay, let's make some graphs. Okay, let's graph the following. Okay, I have a cosine graph. The amplitude is 4 because amplitude is A. The period is 2 pi over B, which is pi. Okay, so that will be your period. So we can just graph this information. Like you can think about transformation, or you can just graph this information. Let me just graph this information. Pi is your period. And then for every trig function, it always have 4 parts. Okay, remember 4 quadrant, right? So knowing the period, just cut it in half. And then cut it in half again. If it's not on the line, doesn't matter. Just cut it in half like this. And now for cosine, the basic shape is like this. It starts from the max. And then now the amplitude should be 4. So let's mark 4, 0, -4, 0, 4. And then I just connect the dots together. And then you can repeat it. From pi, you have 4 quadrants, so cut in half. Max, 0, min, 0, max. So if you want to draw everything in 2 pi, they want to draw 2 pi. I'm drawing 2 cycles, right? I have 2 cycles, 2 periods. And then this is how the graph look like. Okay, I prefer this way rather than like you draw the, for transformation, right? You have a graph, and then you compress it. Like you have a graph, and then you compress it, and then you expand it. I think you don't actually need to do that. You just knowing what's the amplitude and period, you just draw that right away because you know the shape is all like that. All cosine graph look like that. All sine graph look like this. Okay. Well, let's look at another example. Oh, this time I want you to write an equation with this description. Well, we know that amplitude give you A. Okay. Now, how about period? Well, if period is 2 pi over B, well, B is 2 pi over P. You just swap these two around. Okay. B is 2 pi over P. To write an equation, I need to know my A and B. So B is 2 pi over 6. Okay, right? So which is 2 pi. How do you divide fraction? You multiply by the reciprocal. So 2 pi and pi cancel out. 12. Okay. So therefore, my answer, I have a sine function. My function is A sine B theta, or Bx. Or B is 12, sorry, 12. You put a 12 there, 12x. That's my answer. Okay, let's try the next one. Amplitude is 3, that's my A. Period is 720. So my B is, if you work with degree, 360 degree over the period, which give me half. So the answer is, I have a cosine function A, cosine function Bx. Okay, finally, tangent doesn't have amplitude, right? It goes on forever, so no amplitude. The period is, okay, for tangent, original period is pi. So to find out B, it will be pi over 2. And then you find out the answer will be 2. Okay, so y is tangent 2x. Okay, finally, the last type of question, they give you a graph, ask you to figure out the equation. Well, when you have a graph, identify the starting point. Okay, use a sine function. Sine function start at there. Okay, so this is the starting point. Identify where does one cycle end. Okay, one cycle, so you follow, you start here, go up and down. Okay, so for this graph, you identify the starting point, you identify the end point, you trace one cycle. The rest are there to distract you. So you find out where it is. Okay, if each mark is pi over 2, right, the second mark will be 2 pi over 2, which is just pi. The amplitude go to 3, so here we go. State the amplitude. A is 3. The period is pi, so therefore B is 2 pi over P, which give you 2. So let's write the sine equation. This equation is A sine Bx. Okay? Alright. So, see that's the end of the function. But let's try one more example. Here, the graph represents the effect of tides on a sea level over 24 hours period. So, well, look here. Like every box is 3, so this is actually 24. In a day, it actually have tide twice. So you look here, this is a cosine function start on top. It ends here, so this is one cycle. If you read the box, this is 12. Okay, so the period is 12. Period is 12. Then what's the B value? Well, it's 2 pi over P. So your B, hey, is pi over 6. Yes, like no one say B cannot be a number with has a pi involved. And what's A? It's go up as 4, so A is 4. So my answer is the height of the tie is A cosine function pi over 6 theta, or like T here. They want tidal, the height be a function of time. Okay, so this is the first time we saw the B value could have a pi. All right, and then we have some application which has B value which has a pi there. T is the time in this question. Okay, how come I know I use cosine? Because the graph start on the maximum point. So any graph that start at the maximum point is cosine. The best model is cosine. Any graph that start in the middle, the best model is sine function. Okay, so that's complete lesson 7. So I will stop here. Okay, you can try some homework questions and then we will continue our lesson. See you.